Hey guys, welcome to another sunny day, 4 p.m. UK time. Not sure where it is for the rest of the world, but it's going to be a set time somewhere. Big panel today. We're going to be covering selling in the EU. So if you're in the US, whatever country you're in, I brought in a few experts here. You can see Christian, Tosin, Alex and Jana. I'm going to go around the room, starting with you, Christian. You're representing a seller point of view that sells across the EU. Can you give everyone a little bit of background on yourself?
Hi everyone. Been selling on Amazon probably since about 2013. I've been selling in USA, Canada, UK, and across Europe using Pan-EU. I was one of the first sellers in the UK to go into the Pan-EU program. We went into the Pan-EU beta when it started several years ago. Can't remember exactly when. And so, yeah, got a fair amount of experience selling our own brand products as well as wholesale bought products across Europe. And looking forward to sharing that with you guys.
Excellent. Tosin, do you want to go on to you now, mate?
Yes, of course. Hi, everyone. So my name's Tosin. I work for a company called Payoneer, and we're one of the largest payment providers for people who work in e-commerce and sellers. Previously, I worked at a company called iWalker and did lending, and I had a previous career as an athlete as well. So looking forward to sharing loads of insights about the market and where trends are today.
Sounds good. And Jana, coming to you.
So my name is Jana. I'm the owner of Wild Tea Translations. We are the fastest growing translation agency out there dedicated for Amazon. We do around 1,000 ASINs every month. So we have a pretty good insight about what's going on and what are the trends and, how it's affecting the whole business. Previously, I have a really big experience in e-commerce. I was a CEO of the biggest e-commerce in the Northern Europe for 8 years. And I just combined my two passions, e-commerce and languages, with Amazon, and this is how it all happened with the company.
Cool. Sounds good. And Alex?
Yeah, hello. I'm Alex Wyatt. I work at a company called Simply VAT. We specialize in international tax for e-commerce businesses, whether that be in Europe, Canada, Australia, Japan, New Zealand. We got it covered.
Excellent. Sounds good. Right. So let's just give a quick overview on what's taking place on the show and the idea behind it. The idea is if you're looking to launch into the EU and you're from the US or any other country and you're not sure what to do, I've tried to bring a full spread of people. So the roles that everyone's going to be playing today, give you an example. So Christian's going to be playing the role of a seller with the experience of dealing with these programs. Alex is going to be talking about the VAT and the complications. Tosin's going to be talking about cross-border trade, forward contracts, all of these things that are going to make a difference, especially if you're preparing now. Jana, of course, is going to be talking about translations, and I'll be able to talk about PPC and also product selection. So I'm going to quickly start with product selection. One of the biggest mistakes that I see, especially with our own clients, and I always try and put a stop to this, is that everyone just assumes that your products is going to fit every market. And I call it the ubiquitous effect. And what I mean by that is something that's ubiquitous is something like an umbrella. Now, I'm not encouraging you to sell an umbrella because it's kind of competitive in all the different markets, but it's going to come down to some level of niche. But if you think about it, umbrellas are going to be relevant to each territory. There's no cultural aspect to it. Now, let's just say that you're in the US market and you sell taco holders, which has obviously got a massive community there. And also you have Taco Tuesday. So inherently what will happen there is you're going to get a lot of sales if you're positioned well on Amazon there and you're ranking good, etc. But they will not sell shit in anywhere in Europe. Right? You just forget it because you've got to look at what the cultural parts are. So common thing, what happens is everyone starts to get a little bit of their stock and they ship it over and they try and see what's working. That is the worst thing that you can do. The first thing you should be doing is doing your research. One of the best ways to do this is if you're brand registered and you are already opened an account in that territory, look at the brand analytics report. Now, I'll give you an idea of some of the search terms that are available. Not everyone realizes this, but with search terms that are not in brand analytics, a lot of them are less than 10 searches a day. So if you're in a super niche, you might find no search terms. If you're in a broader niche, you'll see the search terms there, but then you're going to try and extrapolate and work out whereabouts are they in terms of search volume. So look at your search terms and then use your third-party tools for representation. Representation for, what's the word for it? I'm trying to think. representation for the right type of search volume on there. So you want to extrapolate that data. Now that is going to be the first thing that you want to look at in terms of, is it right for the market? Okay. Once you understand what products you've got right for the market, then you can take it from there. If you can take it from there, then you can look towards sending out less stock into that marketplace. And then, you know, it's going to be a better fit. It's going to save you money and it's going to save you time over a period of time. Christian, let's come to you.
Sure.
Yeah.
So a lot of, I run events called Scale Free. A lot of people there are selling in the UK already. And they're saying, when should we go into Europe? I think that's a really important question for people to ask themselves. Yeah. And there are two ways to go into Europe. There's keep all your stock in the UK and sell it into Europe, shipping using what Amazon calls the European Fulfillment Network, EFN, which is Amazon will ship your stock from the UK to customers in whichever country they're in.
Yeah.
And the other version is called Pan-EU, and that's where Amazon will distribute your stock around the European marketplaces and then ship to customers locally. Yeah. Amazon pushes to sellers the benefits of Pan-EU, that customers will get better shipping times and the better Prime badge saying that they get same day or next day delivery. But there are a lot more to consider as a seller than just those things. Yeah. So what I say to people is, if you have products and they're already selling in the UK, then use EFN to test those products in the other countries. Yeah. The only thing you really need to test the other countries is good translations, which Jana can help us talk about later. And as long as you have a well-translated page and you put that page live in the other countries using the same ASIN, and using EFN so that all your stock stays in the UK and ships to customers from the UK, that will give you enough to test the interest in those products. Right. To set up at the same time, though, set up basic PPC. So you set up, and again, Danny can talk more about this, but set up, we set up a basic automatic campaign, and we translate some of our keywords, also do some local research to try and use some initial seed keywords to then start testing the market with a bit of advertising. The other thing I found very powerful in Europe is doing product placement ads. So find competitors that are selling similar things that are more expensive or worse rated, and advertise on those pages, because that way you don't have to understand the keywords or the translation or the exact description for the product. You can just use the existing traffic on those pages to promote yourself. Right. So that gives you the chance to spread out into the other countries and to start to see the demand and test if you can, through product placement ads or pay-per-click ads, sponsored product ads, to find ways to get sales in cost effectively and get your sales and traffic. Yeah, that makes sense. Cool. And then the reason to use EFN is that when we use EFN, we keep all our stock in the UK. And a big thing which people don't understand, and again, I think Alex talked more about this, is that as soon as you have stock in another country, you're liable for VAT in that country. And so if I send 1 unit of stock into France and store it in a French warehouse, I then have to register for French VAT and start doing VAT returns in France. Yeah. And so I think sellers shouldn't consider doing that until they get close to what's called the VAT distance selling threshold. And that's a level where you're forced to register even though you haven't got any unit stock in that country itself. And so the pathway for an Amazon seller established in one country, for example, the UK, is to start in the UK, keep your stock in the UK, translate your page properly, and then get it listed in across all the marketplaces, but keep your stock in the UK using EFN and start shipping to those other countries. In my personal experience, we found that customers in Europe, particularly in Italy and Spain, don't really care if it delivers in 1 day or in 3 or 4 days. And so the lift we got from using Pan-EU and having stock in those countries themselves was relatively small. So the benefit of Pan-EU wasn't greater sales volume from customers suddenly saying, we'll buy that product because it ships faster. There is a benefit to slightly lower shipping costs. Amazon's FBA fee is lower for us when you're in the Pan-EU program. But you have to weigh that against the admin cost of registering for tax in 6 extra countries, which is Germany, France, Italy, Spain, Czech Republic, and Poland, and filing those tax returns. And some of those are very frequent. Germany, for example, is every month, and you have to do it within about 10 days of the beginning of each month. So, it's for someone from the UK who's used to doing a VAT return once a quarter, and you've got a month to file after the end of the quarter and another few weeks to pay, or another 3 weeks to pay. In Germany, you have to file and pay within 10 days every month, unless you're in very small volume. And so there's a whole extra level of admin and complexity, and you have to pay someone to help manage that, which Alex, again, can talk about. So for sellers at small volume, start locally, translate your listing properly, bit of PPC, but ship from one country. And then when you get to scale, so when you get close to 35,000 a year in France, or 100,000 in Germany, or whatever the levels are now, when you start getting close to that level, then consider pan-EU as the right way forward, and then use those, and then use that to then register yourself in all the countries and start benefiting from the reduced fees that pan-EU gives you, and the slightly higher sales you get from having stock in the right countries. And so that's the basic process. I mean, if people have questions, I'm happy to answer questions that come in as well. Around that too.
Cool. Just want to say good morning to Bill and Jason and Selva. Welcome today. Who else have we got here? Joe is here. Kelly Harper, Ben Valance, welcome back. Quinn's back again. Oleg is here. Hello, Graham, as well. And Nathan is joined here. George, Marissa, how you doing, George? Hope you're well. Take care, mate. Okay, so now you've kind of covered the outline there, Christian. Alex, do you want to step in and talk about the VAT side of things?
Yeah, sure. Christian did a great job of explaining the basics of VAT. But to kind of expand on that, we have, like he said, the distance selling rules. The distance selling rules, they are a great set of rules to help sellers start testing different markets. So I really like these rules because you can use the EFN network, and you have a good chunk of sales until you have to be VAT registered in the inbound countries. So it is about 35,000 euros in most EU countries, or the local currency equivalent. But in Germany, Netherlands, and Luxembourg, it is 100,000 euros. And this is all net of VAT as well. So exclude your VAT from those threshold calculations, and you have that buffer room. So it's a great room to kind of start testing the market, see where which products are doing well. And then you can kind of look to start playing with your different fulfillment options. So on top of just the EFN and the pan-EU, you have the multi-country inventory. This is where you have to import your goods directly to the fulfillment centers. Amazon won't be moving your products around on your behalf. But with that said, if you tested the markets and you can see that your products are doing really, really well in countries like Spain or Italy, you don't need to sign up to the whole pan-EU program and have your stock held in Czech Republic and Poland. You can just go straight into those countries to get closer to your end customer and lower the cost of shipping and the time of shipping from there. So that's a really great tool to use as well. But yeah, check out those distance selling thresholds. Another thing to note on that is that they renew each calendar year. So if you cross over within a calendar year, you need to be VAT registered within that year and start declaring VAT in the local EU country. But if you don't cross over within the calendar year, by the end of the year, it goes back down to zero and you can start all over again. So that's quite useful.
Yeah. So what Bill McDowell's saying here, 100K a year total in all markets, or just Germany?
Germany, Netherlands, and Luxembourg, you have 100,000 euros.
Yeah, so it's sales in one country. So if your total sales excluding VAT in Germany are 100,000 euros in one calendar year, then you have to register in Germany. But in France, I think it's 35,000 euros, and different countries are different.
Yeah, so you would do it if you were holding your stock in the UK, for example. You would have 100,000 euros worth of goods into Germany before you have to register in Germany, 35,000 into France, 35,000 into Italy, 35,000 into Spain. So it's all separate, going into separate countries.
Sounds good. Okay, should we bring in Tosin? Do you want to talk a little bit what's going on, the volatility in the market, what's happening with the dollar, etc.?
Yeah, of course. So, I mean, from our side, it's obviously currencies fluctuate anyway. It just takes sometimes Donald Trump to sneeze and things change just like that. What's interesting though is the euro versus the pound. So it obviously took a massive dive as we all went into quarantine and we've been sat at home, working from home, or some of us just relaxing. But what is really, really interesting about that is in the last month, it's recovered. So if you look at where it was a month ago versus now, it's pretty much at the same rate. So it obviously dipped down and went down to like £1 to like 1.0 something about 2-3 weeks ago, but it's now recovered. So if you went into panic mode and you bought forward contracts at a certain rate or a certain, you thought to yourself, actually it's going to keep going down, I'm going to commit at this rate and I'll be fine. Well, actually, if you waited and you took a bit more time, you'd have seen that actually it's recovered, so it isn't that bad. So from our side, it's really, it's gambling. No one knows what's really going to happen in the market. No one knows what's going to happen with currency, and we've seen people try and hold on to their US dollars a little bit more or their euros a little bit more. But like I said, it's recovered. So you just don't really know. I think the first thing to do is to look at your business and have a diverse business. So, if you are selling only in the UK and your UK sales are here, if you were selling in the UK and in the EU, in different countries in the EU, for instance, the odds are you might have taken a 20% cut all across the board, but you've got more revenue to play with. That's what you'd expect. So you're diversifying your source of income are the key things, and that's, I guess, why we're here today to talk about it. But on the other side, the pound went down versus the US dollar, and it hasn't fully recovered. So those who kind of betted on that side may have got some benefits, especially if you're doing hundreds of thousands a month. So, the key things are you never know what's going to happen with the market. You never know what's going to happen with currency, but it's always like that. But look at your business, and I wouldn't say now's a good time to launch a new product that's, like we talked about before, that's not tried and tested in the market. I wouldn't launch, for some reason, Frisbees come to mind. I wouldn't launch Frisbees right now because we can't go outside, right? So I wouldn't go and launch some Frisbees right now. But if you've got a product that is an essential product and you're looking at launching that, test it out. There's loads of data out there, loads of websites that can help you with that. But when it comes to the numbers and it comes to currency, anything can happen. It's very, very volatile, and you just got to think about yourself, your business, and making sure you don't take a risk that's going to put you out there. And if we continue to be locked at home for the next 2 or 3 months, that's going to really, really negatively impact your business. So really try and future-proof your business. Don't take any crazy risks right now, but if there are things that you think are going to work really, really well because it's tried and tested, then definitely look at that.
Cool. Got some questions here. Michael Schneider's asking, when the UK leaves the EU, would distance selling still be an option for sellers, or will that program rule change?
I'll try that one if you like.
Yeah.
I imagine that the worst case is that we have no deal, and so if that happens, we'll end up, the UK to EU will have the same relationship as another third country has. So it'd be like the US to the EU, for example. So that means that the distance selling threshold will still exist, as far as I understand. The only question is Amazon's own policies and pricing for shipping from the UK to Europe, and we'd have no idea what that's going to be until it happens. So it should still exist. There should still be a way of doing it. Shipping times might go up if there's some kind of customs control in worst case. The VAT threshold should still exist as distance selling threshold, even if we're not EU members. But then the detail we'll have to wait and see. So we can't tell for sure.
Yeah, I'll chime in here if you don't mind, because you are right in terms of like after post-Brexit, the UK will be seen as a third country if there's no trade negotiations agreed. However, looking at any shipments from Amazon from the UK into Europe, everything will be seen as an export from the UK and an import into Europe. So that you need to consider if there are any goods going cross-border from the UK into Europe. There will be import VAT and duties on each of those goods. So you need to consider that in terms of your cash flow going back and forth. And another big change that's happening at the beginning of 2021, so right when Brexit's supposed to happen, is the whole of the EU VAT rules are changing. So actually the distance selling thresholds are actually going to be abolished. And it's going to be covered by a new system called VAT-OS, which is the one-stop shop. Which will essentially mean that all VAT will be charged in the place of consumption of where the goods are sold to, so the sale arrival country, if you will. and that will be charged with the local VAT rate from there.
Cool. We've got here, at present, I'm not selling Europe, but it seems Amazon is selling using my listings. What will happen if I start selling in Europe? That's a good question. Amazon has a habit of just bunching stuff across without your recognition or what's the word for it? Not without your permission, because you don't own a listing, but you know what
I think the follow-up question to that is are they selling your stock
on your listing?
Shipping? But the question is, are they selling the stock from, for example, America and shipping using worldwide shipping into the UK, or is Amazon buying?
We lost you there, Christian. Just wait for your audio to come back. You just dropped out. All right, so while we're waiting for Christian to come back in the game, let's quickly move to Joe's question. If you hold products in the UK, how long do they take to be shipped to the different countries? Oh, Christian's back. Right, okay. So let's reiterate that Christian, that question again. So at present, I'm not selling in Europe. Yeah.
So the question I have is, in Europe, for example, is Amazon representing themselves as Amazon retailers selling this product? Yeah. And so that means they probably will be buying it from you and then kind of basically drop shipping it from your stock somewhere else. Or they may have bought the stock from you and are holding it themselves in the country, or is it yours? So it's using rate for it's possible that you've got international shipping settings set up in the US saying that that customers can buy in Europe. So a couple of things here. First is that you don't own listings. Okay, once a listing exists, once an ASIN exists, that's part of Amazon's catalog, and it takes a while for private label sellers to get their heads around the fact that that's not their listing. It's just an ASIN in the catalog. And I think the way I explain this to people is think about a packet of Duracell batteries or a drill or something else. And those things just exist. Anybody can sell those products if they have the stock of them. And private label sellers think because they created the ASIN originally, it somehow belongs to them. It doesn't. It just lives in the Amazon catalog. And so there are various different ways that an ASIN can be represented and sold. And one of those is that if the ASIN exists in the catalog in America, then Amazon can sell that same ASIN in Europe using your worldwide shipping settings. And so at the moment, by not selling yourself in Europe, you haven't taken the time to create and optimize the listing for the local audience. You haven't translated even US to British English. You haven't translated for Europe, so Amazon may have machine translated it. And so by selling yourself in Europe, it would help you to control the listings, to have better shipping times, and to have better control of your costs and your local stock. So yeah, if it's selling and if you can see some kind of sales figures, then it may be an incentive for you to actually start representing that properly by moving some stock to Europe and selling locally. But you have to be aware of the VAT obligation of that. So if you have stock in the UK as a foreign seller, you'd have to then register for VAT in the UK immediately.
So Asad, Christian, did you see an increase in sales in DE Marketplace after sending inventory there, or you experienced the same as you mentioned for Italy and Spain?
Sure. To be clear, when we had local shipping, all the sales went up a bit, but it wasn't a lot. I mean, I can't remember exactly, but it was small percentage figures for Italy and Spain and slightly higher for Germany. But the shipping time from the UK to Germany before we were Pan-EU, I think it was about 3 or 4 days. Mm-hmm. So even still, I mean, you still, without Pan-EU, you still get the Prime badge. It still says it's a Prime offer. It just says Prime, and then the estimated delivery date is 3 or 4 days extra. And people are seeing that a bit now as well with COVID. They're seeing Prime, but delivered in 3 weeks. So you remember that Prime and delivery date are separate. So you already have, using EFN, you already have the Prime badge. The Pan-EU just shortens that delivery time. Then the other thing to remember is that it only works when the Amazon algorithm has figured it out correctly and actually moved your stock to the right country. So we have things like, we have products that sell really well in Germany and England, but they've moved the stock to Spain for no great reason. And so then our delivery time to the UK and Germany, when we start running low on stock, or the only stock left is in Spain, is actually higher. So the UK and Germany is seeing a 7-day shipping time because the stock has to be shipped from Spain back to England or back to Germany. So Pan-EU doesn't always give you a better shipping time. It only gives you better time when the stock is in the right place.
Okay, Joe's saying if you hold a product in the UK, how long does it take to be shipped to the different countries? And if possible, to change from Pan-EU once you've already signed up?
Okay, It depends is the answer to the first one.
It's like escaping Alcatraz, yeah?
We see about the second one, yeah. But the first one, so we saw about 3 or 4 days to Germany, sometimes less, and about 4 to 6 days to Italy and Spain. But this we've been Pan EU for years, so that may have changed since then. So yeah, I mean, and you can see it yourself. If you have your stock in the UK, create your listings in other countries, and you'll see yourself what Amazon's quoting for your particular products and how long it will take to ship. And that may vary a bit depending on the size and the weight and other things. But the second part about can you escape Pan EU once you're in? Yes, you can, but it's really hard because if once you join Pan EU, Amazon will move your stock all around Europe. And as long as you have stock in those other countries, you can leave the Pan EU program, but you'll still be liable for VAT in those countries until you've got all your stock back from those countries back to the UK. And then you can start kind of say, I don't no longer want to be VAT registered in Germany, for example, because I've cleared all the stock out. There is a way within Amazon to do a what's called multi-country cross-border removal order. So you can say, I want to remove any stock you have in Germany and send it back to the UK, or remove stock from Spain. But it's hidden in the settings. I can't remember exactly how you find it, but there is a way to do a cross-border removal order and get that stock back into the country. But it's not easy and it's a mess. And you're going to get, like a normal removal, you're going to get all sorts of weird numbers of stock arriving over a long period of time.
Yeah, makes sense. Can I bring Jana in, because we haven't really chatted with you much, Jana? Do you want to give us a full breakdown of the pros and cons, especially when it comes to translations, what not to do? Kind of ties in with what I was saying earlier on, is that you don't want to be doing too many products. You want to focus so you get to the stage of can you convert on these products and then expand on your catalog.
Yeah, I also absolutely agree with what Christian said. We should definitely scale on one marketplace and then move on to other marketplaces. People who sell in the US and UK, they usually choose German marketplace as being the biggest one in Europe. And also, like I like to call it as like a 5-star marketplace, because like other countries that don't have Amazon, they get redirected and buy from the German Amazon. So you actually can reach like more people that actually live in Germany. That's number one. So definitely would recommend German marketplace and then expanding to others. Recently, like I've seen like a very big boost in like the newest marketplace, the Dutch marketplace. We've had a lot of like different inquiries for ASINs even since October. Dutch marketplace has just like I think in January 20 something launched the marketplace, but just certain categories were rolled out. So not all the categories are still able to be sold there, but a lot of people are very interested. A lot of 7-figure sellers that we have as clients, they decided to basically translate 70% of their ASINs. So I guess the sellers see a great potential in that marketplace. It's also like part of the pan-European program, and yeah, they don't have the stock. It's a warehouse, like they have like long distance selling. And what I would always tell all the sellers that want to do the translations is that you really have to pay attention to the localization. It's not only translation, so you don't like just take the text and translate it as it is. I always like to take an example of the US versus the German market. Those are two different marketplaces, very specific. US marketplace has like the sales pitch, like in all the bullets. They gonna make you buy the product. They push you into buy my product. Like our product is amazing. This is something that doesn't work well on the German marketplace. Like Germans are just like clean and straight and like tell me how to use the product, what are the features, and how is that gonna solve my problem. They hate when people push them into buying product or telling them how freaking amazing their product is, because they will be the judge of that in the reviews. So there are a lot of things that are very typical for each market separately, and you really have to pay attention to that to know your audience and who you're selling to. A lot of products won't work on all marketplaces. For instance, we had a client selling like a Mr. and Mrs. t-shirts, and it was doing amazing like on the US and UK market, but German market was a big, like it was like horrible. And then he was like, but I did everything right, like my translations, like PPC, everything, keywords, but the German market just hated that product. They just didn't like it. I even asked and reached out to basically a lot of people I know, and I'm like, what's wrong with this listing? And they're just like, I don't know, like we just don't like the product, you know? So it really depends on the mentality, and you have to know who you're selling this to. Also because also a lot of people who make a mistake with translating their keywords. A lot of people use Google Translate still. Google Translate has come a long way ever since, like, 15 years ago, when it was like a really this dull software tool that had no idea what they're doing. But still today, you don't have something which is called context recognized on Google. So they don't understand your storytelling of your brand or anything you want to deliver to your clients. And of course, they don't do keyword translation as well. Not all keyword combinations are going to be the same on US market and on the UK market. So even if you're like selling from the UK or US or vice versa, you'll have to do the keyword market research separately, because you don't want to just use a Google Translate, or maybe you just use a human translator. I mean, there are like a lot of really good translators on Fiverr, but unless they use the tools or they search manually what the competitors are using, they might be using a completely wrong word for that product. Even that word maybe translates correctly to this language.
Sorry, can I just step in there? Because like what you said, like someone can translate from one language to another, but it doesn't make them understand listing optimization, nor marketing, nor copywriting, nor sales, nor persuasion. So there needs to be a few elements to roll into one in order to get the right translation across on a technical level, right?
Yeah. I'm just going to answer this question. This one, do you need a Dutch bank account? You don't need it. There was something like in January, beginning of January, that there was information that you do need a Dutch account. That this is the only, how to get like your cash out of the account, but you can just, use any other, you don't have to have the Dutch bank account basically. So.
Cool. Ben Valent says, we've had a huge uplift in EU sales across various category client accounts since the unification of reviews. If you haven't started, just do it, but do it right. Exactly. So, Jana, do you want to carry on with what you're saying, articulating more about translations, or are we finished?
Yeah, I just want to give like a really good example I found like among other listings, and it's an glass espresso cup, which like on the US Amazon it says like own the enigma, just like your grandma used to do in front of a fireplace, playing with I don't know what, like some like metaphorical, emotional, whatever bullet they want to try to make. This very same bullet on the German marketplace, it says thermo isolated glass. That's it. So no like wordplay, no metaphors, nothing. Or they just want to go like clear glass and very stylish, elegant. This is how you do it. This is not how you do it. Like, show me the features in those caps lock at the beginning of every bullet, and this is it. And the German marketplace is the marketplace which gives the most refunds to their buyers. So this is how actually, the whole German market works. It's all like, clean and straightforward and just like, very organized. And if you don't think that you got this product that you read in this listing, here's your money back. We're going to refund you. So you really have to pay attention to that and really know how to make this sound very appealing to the German audience, on top of having the real high traffic keywords for that specific marketplace. This, of course, varies because you can have like if you sell like kids' toys, of course, you're going to have a different tone, but you also have to be like very, very careful in how you put put your words in the listing. So that's very, very important.
Okay, Bill McDowell.
Can I add to that point?
Yes, sorry, go on.
Can I add to that point from Jana, actually, about the refunds? So yes, you're right, and we see that a lot. And another big thing about that is that in the German market, they like to, when it comes to clothing, for instance, they like to order many different sizes. They might order a medium, a large, an extra large, try them on, and then send them back. So if you have limited stock and you're trying to launch onto pan EU, just be mindful of that. There'll be some countries like Germany, for instance, where people will buy 3 things. You get excited. You look at your app, you're like, oh my goodness, I've made 3 sales, and actually 2 of them are going to come back, and the associated postage costs there as well. So understand the market's key, and like you just said. So there you go.
Cool. Bill McDowell says, what's the best way to get those listings translated? There's a bit of a pitch there for you, Jana, if you want to tell him how to reach you. And then Daisy, do you want to give him the name of your company?
My company?
Yeah, he was asking where can he get this translated?
Yeah. Well, we could share it later. I mean, YLT translations, but you can reach out later. So.
Okay. Daisy said, good point, Jana, about translations, having the knowledge of the different markets plus marketing and communication skills. Right. So we've kind of gone round.
Thank you, Daisy.
We're kind of gone round. We're 35 minutes in. Should we kind of round this off on step by step? Like, I'll reiterate what I was saying at the very beginning, then Christian, and we go round the room of if someone's to write notes down. So the first thing I would say to people is, before shipping stock, do your keyword research and understand the volumes of each market. A good place to start is brand analytics if you've got brand registry. If your keywords are not in there, it's probably either super niche or the search volume's too low. That'll give you an indicator, but then use the third-party tools to look at the search volume as well. That would be key for those markets. Get the translations done properly in terms of what keywords to search on, and don't use Google Translate. Only use native tongue where possible, people that understand the market. Fiverr is not a great place to go. Maybe if you've got friends, family, or native tongue living in those countries, understand those cultures, find out there. You're probably going to get an average rule of thumb is that being that Germany, I think, is the third largest marketplace behind behind the US, then is it Japan, then Germany? I can't remember which way round it is. So, so you kind of know that your marketplace, you're going to get sleepy Spain, you're going to get Italy. France can be quite powerful in terms of sales for some people, but it's your UK and your Germany are going to be really your main market. So if you want to start somewhere, check Germany maybe, and then work backwards out of there in terms of the foreign speaking countries. That would be my take on it. Understand that your products will not necessarily be ubiquitous across all marketplaces. Christian?
So if you are currently not in the UK or Europe at all, so if you're starting in the US, I would suggest you come into the UK first, understand the local side of the things, as Danny mentioned, and then understand your tax implications. So you have to register for VAT in the UK and then come into the UK and launch here. Once you're based in the UK, so once your product exists in the UK, it's not very complex at the moment. That may change with Brexit, but it's not very complex at the moment to go into Europe as well. So pretty early on, I would suggest getting your listings translated because it's a one-off job, creating basic pay-per-click campaigns because, again, it's more or less a one-off job. You can just monitor them over once a month or something. You don't have to be too hands-on at first, and just get yourself started and start picking up those extra sales in Europe. And then when you start seeing some action, you can then start to optimize more and start to focus more and spend more time on pay-per-click and so on. Use EFN first. If you start to get a lot of interest in one country, as Alex mentioned earlier, then you can look at using MCI, which is the multi-country inventory, to put your stock into one other country or certain particular other countries. And then once you get success, because when you work forward and you end up with higher volumes, you can then start looking at the Pan-EU program, understanding there's a large admin overhead, understanding you're going to have to hire someone like Simply VAT to manage your tax. I use Simply VAT myself. And benefiting from the quicker shipping times, lower shipping fees, and slightly higher sales in those countries. The other thing I'd say about different countries is we sell lots of different things, but for example, we sell some garden products, and they sell really well in Spain and Italy, and the season is longer because in Germany and the UK, they're the bigger markets, but the summer is shorter. And so our summer products picked up in Spain and Italy about a month ago, and even with lockdown in Italy, we're still seeing sales for those. But then the German and English seasons are just starting this week. We're just starting to see our first sales come through this week for those products. The sun's shining, so you can have different seasonality in different countries, and so that can help you to manage your volumes over the year and to kind of maybe extend a seasonal product for longer. Or maybe some countries have different cultural reasons for buying certain products at different times. So you can investigate that a bit more and do a bit more with those countries if you can.
Sounds good. Tosin?
Yeah, so I would say you still got to lead. The first thing is product. If you've got a great product, an essential item, what Amazon sees as an essential item right now, you're going to be on the right path. As an Amazon seller, you're not an FX broker, you're not an FX specialist. So it's a tricky game to try and play the FX side and play the market. But what I will say is using a payment provider, there's many out there. Obviously, my company is one of them. You're going to save 50% on the fees straight away anyway. So unless you're doing hundreds of thousands a month or millions a month, the dips in the market aren't really going to affect you that much. They really won't. So you'd be sensible, get a good product, a solid product, and make sure you're using a payment service provider to actually keep the fees down, and you should be on the right track.
Excellent. Over to you.
Add to that briefly. The two things about that. One is definitely use a payment provider, because Amazon, if you're selling in Europe and you're converting your money from euros back to pounds or euros to dollars, you're going to be paying Amazon about 4%, I think it is. And if you use a payment provider like Payoneer, and you're going to be paying half that or less than half that. So you're instantly making an extra 2%, 3% margin on every sale. And it doesn't cost you anything to set them up, so just set them up. I mean, it's a no-brainer. And the second thing is I keep some currency myself in euros or dollars because I just see it as a hedge. So the currencies go up and down all the time, but if you have a balance in them, then if they go up and down, then it balances itself out, because you've kind of protected against those changes by the fact you're holding balances in pounds, euros, and dollars, some Canadian dollars for us as well. So don't be too scared of the currency, but just try and see it for what it is, and try and make sure you price things correctly.
Market, Christian. I didn't see you as that kind of guy.
Okay, so let's move on to Alex. Let's talk VAT.
Yeah, before I answer the question, I'll start off with, first of all, if you're just entering in the EU market and you're just starting out, don't leave your VAT to the end. Don't be scared of it. It's not something to be scared of. Give us a call or give a tax agent a call in order to talk it through with someone who knows what they're talking about. Start with the EFN and get your VAT registered right away. Especially in this climate, a lot of the tax authorities are either shut down or suspended or working remotely. So any VAT registrations could take longer in specific EU countries. So make sure that you're planning ahead. Start that, because it can take up to 10 to 12 weeks to get a registration in place. And in that time frame, you could be setting up your translations for your listings and getting everything else, kind of all your ducks in a row in order to start selling. And then if you're looking to scale your business, make sure that you're really that you are outweighing the cost of compliance with the amount of sales that you're getting or the amount of savings that you're making under, say, the Pan-EU program, and the fulfillment fees that that are being lowered. And then to answer this question, what are the deadline dates for VAT registration in the different countries? For the VAT registrations, there's no deadline date specifically. You need to be registered technically before the first sale is made from that EU country, or from the time that you cross over the distance selling threshold. So from that first sale, you need to be VAT registered. If you're talking about the VAT returns, they would vary depending on the country. So as Christian talked about earlier, Germany is quite close. It's a monthly return due on the 10th. And then it kind of staggers depending on the country that you're looking in. So have some, I would just say outsource it, because it's so much easier for somebody else to manage this for you than you to have to calculate VAT in 7 different countries.
Makes sense. Jana?
Well, basically, when you start, when you want to go to the European marketplace, let's say if you're a US seller. Usually people who want to decide, who decide to contact us about the translations are the ones who actually hit the wall at that marketplace over there. And they just decide to kind of expand and be like, okay, let's see what our products can do over there. And usually people can actually have the same revenue as they're having on the US market, but their PPC clicks might be, cheaper, and they might have less competitors. So what a lot of people don't even do is they don't even check if they have any other competitors in international markets before even considering on expanding over there. So what I would suggest to people not selling on European markets is to check the competitors today and see maybe if there's something as an amazing opportunity for your product over there, and maybe you can save a lot of money and you can have a hit product. As Christian said, it's a really good idea to sell bonsai kits or botanical equipment, because the Spanish and Italian marketplaces or in country, they have a longer warm climate, so it makes sense that you start selling those products in Spanish and Italian market, even though the markets are fairly small. And before going into this process, like when it comes to translations, it's very essential to do the keyword research. I would say that the keywords are still the most important thing of the listing. You can have a beautifully written text on your listing, but if you don't have the high search volume keywords that you're going to use in your listing, your product is not going to pop up to the clients, and they're not going to buy it. So I really think that something you should really focus on are really finding the best keywords for that product. Definitely.
Cool. Michael Schneider, what's he saying here? Free tip. We started the process in November in Germany to reg for that. Still waiting today. But if you plan to go pan-EU, plan ahead so you don't end up with a bunch of nil filings for the other EU countries. Cool. Jana, have you got any last bits you want to add on before I read out what shows are coming up for the rest of the week?
Well, I think basically that's it. Just, like nowadays, like when people are selling products that have any beauty products, basically, we've had a lot of problems with that last week. So basically all beauty products, body wash, anything which has to do and any kind being maybe medical and not cosmetic, just try to avoid optimizing that at this point, because I think Amazon is being super rigorous about that. We had this product, which is basically a body wash, and in the Italian language, we couldn't use something which basically means intimate discomfort. This was flagged as something which is something that you should not use in your listings. And I think apart from, the basics as being antibacterial, viruses, biological contaminants, and something that usually should not be there in your listings, I think Amazon is taking an extra precautious about basically everything which is like a cosmetic product, and you should just pay attention to not use any of the very touchy words for now.
Cool. So tomorrow we're going to kick off. We've got Steve Simonson back with Kevin King and Kian Gilzari. We're going to be talking about diversifying off of Amazon. That includes not only stuff like Shopify, but also other investments. If you've got a little bit of cash in the bank and you want to diversify instead of investing in more stock. And then on Saturday, we've got part 4 of our Women of Amazon. And then on Sunday is Mindset Sunday Business Vision. A little off topic. I've got a couple more questions here. Let's do these and then we'll say our final goodbyes. Jason. Hey, Jason. Hope you're well. It's a big one. Question. I'll take it off the screen because everyone disappeared. Another question for Alex Wyatt. Some countries have announced the ability to defer VAT payments. Do you suggest we take advantage of this? E.g. Germany, businesses may apply for VAT payment postponement until the 31st of December 2020. Italy. And then it says here, business may be able to postpone payment for their VAT until 31st of May 2020. And can you also decide to file a specific VAT return and their listings later? That's quite a complicated question. Do you understand what he's going on about? Yeah,
I do. Yeah. Some countries, like during the COVID-19 pandemic, because a lot of businesses have been impacted by the pandemic, what has happened is the tax authorities in different countries have responded to it in different ways to try and help businesses by deferring VAT payments. But it depends on the country that you're registered in or on what they've done. So some countries like the UK, for example, have deferred VAT payments. But just because they defer the VAT payments doesn't mean they defer the actual filing. So you still have to file the VAT, but the payment could be postponed. Now, countries like France, for example, don't see that VAT should be impacted by the pandemic because VAT is actually an indirect tax. So it's actually just collected on behalf of the government from the end customer. So in that regard, countries like France are saying, no, you should be able to continue to pay your taxes on time. And from my point of view, I think you should follow France's point of view because that money isn't technically yours to be using. You need to be able to, you're going to have to pay that at some point. So whether you're paying that now and keeping up to date with your VAT payments, later down the line, if depending on which way the wind blows, your business could be in trouble if you can't meet those set deadlines. And also some countries actually require you to apply for these extensions. And if you don't get granted the application and you've actually spent that money, then you're going to be out of pocket and it's going to impact your cash flow. So from my point of view, I would say try to stick to your VAT deadlines as much as possible.
Okay, Selva, is said, is there any minimum sales threshold for registering VAT, or every seller shall register regardless of their revenue?
This depends on if your business is based in the EU. If your business is based within an EU country, you'll have a set threshold before you have to be VAT registered in that local country. So in the UK, for example, UK businesses benefit from having an £85,000 threshold before they have to be VAT registered. But with that being said, if you're not VAT registered, you can't reclaim any import taxes or any purchase VAT. So yeah, you have to weigh out the pros and cons there. And then once you do come up and breach that threshold, you will need to make sure that you're getting VAT registered and including the extra VAT in your product prices. So that could jump your prices that you list on Amazon. So just be aware of that.
Cool. Bill McDowell says, a little off topic in regards to the EU. Does anyone have any thoughts about the Australian market and what is needed to get started there? VAT filing, etc. Is it similar to the UK? One thing I would say, Bill, we've done a double episode. Check out the group as well, the Australian seller as well. Really good guy, spearheading over there. We done a long podcast on it, talking about the good, the bad and the ugly. So go and check those out for an in-depth view of people selling on the ground there as well. But in terms of filing, Alex, do you want to answer this one?
Yeah, sure. So if you're selling on a marketplace, the marketplace is actually liable to collect the GST in Australia on your behalf. So really it's only if you are selling on your own website that you need to be conscious of collecting GST in Australia, and you have a set threshold of 75,000 Australian dollars before you have to GST register. So just keep that in the back of your mind once you get going.
Cool.
Do you know if you need to register? Do you know if you need to register as an Australian business number before you trade in Australia, or is that not required?
Yes. Yeah, you would need to get an Australian business number. Yeah.
I thought you did. It's because I've done that myself, but we don't really trade in Australia. But it's quite a painless procedure. But it's something that Amazon won't give you a straight answer about. But it's something I think you have to do before you legally can trade in Australia. You just register for an Australian business number.
Cool. Christian, while you're still speaking, do you want to say how people can reach you? Say your goodbyes.
Sure. My name's Christian. Christian Morgan. You can find me on the Scale for Retail group, which is hard to say and spell, but it's what it is. You can look up as Christian Morgan. You can send me a message, and if you have any questions, then if you ask them on our group, happy to answer them, or you can send me a personal message and I can try and answer them that way. Yeah, take care.
Cool. Tosin.
Yes, so you can reach me on Facebook, or alternatively you can contact myself and my team, EU sales team at payoneer.com. And those are the best two ways of contacting myself.
Excellent. Yana?
You guys are more than welcome to add me on Facebook, or you can send me directly an email, jna@ylt-translations.com. If you want any advice on, if you have any translated listings and you want to know why they're underperforming or how, what you can do to make them better, feel free to shoot me an email and I'll be happy to take a look.
Sounds good. And finish with you, Alex.
Yeah. So the best way to contact me would either be you can add me on Facebook, message me through Facebook, or send me an email at alex.wyatt@simplyvat.com. And don't be afraid of VAT. Just give us a call and make sure that we can talk through it with you.
Saunds good, guys. Thank you so much for joining us, guys. Everyone listening, thank you very much. Again, I'll see you tomorrow at the same time, same place. Be safe, stay indoors. Much love. Take care. Goodbye.
Take care, everyone.
Take care, guys.
Bye.
Bye.